Good evening and welcome to Slam the Gavel, the show that tells it all regarding family court, other court issues, as well as CPS. I am your host, Marianne Petrie. I have a return guest on. I've had him on multiple times. I would say about 4 times. He is Kenneth Gottfried. He is a book author of 3 books. You can find these books on Amazon. One is Victim. One is APA, abuses children, kills parents, and grows their base. Child abusers wear black robes, and that includes child psychological abuse as well as killing judges. And he's owner of childabusevejudges.com, where he's got over 558 judges that people have reported. And he has taken this to the FBI. We're going to talk about that. And good morning, Ken. How are you doing? And how come you got hung up on by the FBI?
Okay. First of all, hi, Marianne. Thank you for having me on again. Okay. The that question is where we all run into a problem with everything we're dealing with. And I'll get into that in a second. I just want to warn everybody out there who's listening in. This is going to be a very emotional and a very poignant podcast that you do not want to miss, because I'm going to be pulling out points that of everything I've made throughout all of my books, and I'm not holding back. I'm usually very quiet, or not very quiet, but I'm usually very reserved to figure out what I'm going to say. Not in this podcast. I'm unbelievably upset because what the FBI does is what the Sheriff's Department, Police Department, Division of Child Services, the Judicial Standards Commissions, bar associations, lawyers, all, they basically have surrounded the wagons knowing that they can kill people at will. They can destroy people, and they know this. They can destroy children, and they know this. So this is going to be a good one. Okay, so why am I getting hung up on by the FBI? Everybody's getting hung up by the FBI, not just me. I've spoke to too many people about, I've tried to call the FBI, I've tried to call the Sheriff's Department, I've tried to call all these different government agencies, and they basically tell you to go fuck yourselves. Suck it up. We don't care about child abuse. We don't care about who's doing it. We don't care about psychological child abuse. And some of the ways they get around this is, oh, well, we don't have psychological child abuse, but we have emotional child abuse. In all 50 states, emotional child abuse is something that the Division of Child Services is supposed to take and look at. What you have is an emotional child abuse and psychological child abuse. The CDC reports that 32% of all child abuse is emotional and psychological. Only 8% is sexual, but yet they look at only sexual, only physical for the most part. It makes up 90%, 95% of all what the Division of Social Services and Child Services look at. They don't really give a shit that some kid is being psychologically abused. And that's how they get around, oh, we won't do it. We don't have a specialist to know. And even the FBI was like, well, you give us sexual, you give us physical, we're all about it, but emotional, we don't know about, blah, 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 blah. And I heard that from Amy Howard in Longmont, Colorado with the FBI, the Denver FBI, Christopher Wray, who's the director of the FBI. He can go fuck himself. He is a goddamn child abuser. I've heard it from Hickory FBI, the Charlotte FBI, Richard Sutherland FBI, and now last Friday, or not last Friday, but last week or the week before, I went into the FBI's office here in West Palm Beach, and they basically told me, go fuck yourself. We don't do child abuse. We don't do constitutional rights. As far as we're concerned, the Constitution can burn, and your children can go burn. They don't give a shit. That's what I was told directly. I wish I had it on record, because I'm a big avid person. Record. You don't do anything without recording, but they gave me a line of bullshit that we're the FBI, we can't be recorded. If you do, we're going to leave.
Mm.
And so fuck these guys. Fuck the duty agents down in West Palm Beach. That's the supervisors in the FBI. And they're like, we will not do anything. And I asked them, I was like, I don't give a shit if you don't do anything. Take the report and at least file it
Mhm.
with somebody who does child abuse. It's no reason not to take the report and actually file it and give it to a specialist who understands a psychological child abuse, all the emotional damage it does. Why
Mhm.
don't you do that? Well, and they him and ha. And it drives me batshit because I know how detrimental this is.
Mhm.
I know how horrific this is to your children. Um, so why do they hang up on people? Because they know it's happening.
Mhm.
They know this is child abuse. They can say, well, we don't handle this because the state handles it and they need to call us. Well, the state's not going to call them because they're like, we're not going to do a report. You know, most of the sheriffs, when you go up to them, well, we're not going to write a report against the judge because we're in that court every day.
Mhm.
So we're not going to write a report against our brother in blue, our brother, in black robes, because they're liars. They're total covering up of child abuse and child trafficking. The DSS, Division of Child Services, DCS, whatever it's called in your state, they will absolutely say sexual, physical, we're all about it. Emotional, we won't touch it because we don't know how to do it. Well, you get a fucking specialist.
Well, you know what? I think I may have told you or not, but I was indicated for emotional child abuse on 2 separate occasions. I was exonerated twice. I had back-to-back charges because, I don't know, but I asked the caseworker, when was the last time it was, oh, what's the word? Proven. I can't think of another word. She said, "Oh, about 30 years ago."
Okay, but let me ask you a question. Because you were accused of this psychological child abuse and you were acquitted, then they took your kids away from the father and brought them over to you 100%, right?
No, because the judge continued the scenario that I was abusive and mentally ill and alienating my kids from me.
But you were exonerated.
I was
So he had
exonerated, yeah, twice.
so hold on. Yay, that judge is deceased. That's a child abuser who's in the ground. You didn't get any resolution? Come on.
No, because
That's
right, because my kids said, "Mom, since this judge is dead, can you run another, hearing?" I was like, "These kids know lawyer language," and I said, "Okay, I'll go down to the custodial office or whatever and, ask for a new hearing." So I did. She granted it. And then the opposing attorney expected me to pay him $1,500 for his appearance, like he's J-Lo, and he's not even pretty. And the thing was, okay, so we get into the courtroom, and I told my kids I would subpoena them because they're old enough, we're talking 15, 16, to be on the stand. They're old enough. I subpoenaed a whole bunch of people. I was ready to go, and the kids weren't there. And so all that happened was the opposing attorney spoke and he ran the show because, and there was a judge pulled out of retirement who looked like he was 90, I swear to God. I actually looked up his age, he was 70. I think it was probably all the alcohol he was drinking and whatever he was doing. They all need to be drug tested. But anyway, um, the judge said, "Well, did you ever pay this attorney the $1,500?" It's like, well, it was first of all, it really wasn't ordered. I never got a bill. So no. And so he said, "Well, then I'm not going to entertain this hearing at all." So when we left the courthouse and I picked up the kids and they said, "Mom, was there a hearing today?" I said, "Yeah, there was." "Well, Dad said it was canceled." "No, no, it was not canceled. We were looking for you." And there was this complete silence.
yeah. And they will do whatever it takes to ruin your life. They
Oh,
will
yeah,
do
they have.
whatever it takes to give you a heart attack like you had. They
Yeah.
will do whatever it takes to abuse your kids and keep that money flowing from Title 4D.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't care if you wind up sane, doing okay, and then going from sanity to insanity to PTSD to the brink of death with a heart attack.
Mm-hmm.
They don't care. This is all a charade in a game.
Right.
Charade, facade,
Right.
facade in a game. I don't know.
Right. Because
Charade,
technically
charade
those
in a game.
yeah, technically those kids should have gone back to 50-50 like we had been for 10 years
Absolutely. They should
until
have been immediately back to 50-50.
exactly.
And he should have gotten a minimum a warning if he tries anything like this again. She's been exonerated twice. He is going to jail.
Mhm.
Period. You don't lie about somebody to keep the kids to fuck up their mind and and create psychological abuse that their mom or dad is dangerous. And when you get them back, now you're in a world of trouble because, and that's if you get them back,
Mhm.
because now you got to unprogram the abuse that's gone on.
Mhm.
Okay. So I want to talk about Child Abusers Wear Black Robes. That was my last book. And I'm going to tell everybody out there, how far are we into this?
Mm, 15
Are
minutes.
we into this podcast? How
Oh,
many
we're about
minutes?
maybe 10 to 15 minutes.
Okay, you
10
get
minutes.
this thing because you want to put it when you guys believe there is psychological abuse. Okay, you've got, your children are changing, your children have changed, they won't contact you, they won't do anything. Here's a list of things that you can do. Okay, first of all, don't do this alone, and always video record any action you're having with the magistrate, a judge, whatever, police officer. You always record it, and the best way is video recording, and let them know up front, we are here, we've got a video recorder, we would like to press charges. Do not do this alone. If you do this alone, you might as well just take a couple of rocks, throw them on your feet, and jump into a lake, because they will make you out to be crazy. They will make you out to feel like you are insane. Okay, but you go in you gather friends, you gather fellow people who have been through this before, fathers, mothers, get your grandparents, get your sisters, get your brothers, if they will listen to you, and have them come down to the magistrate's office. It is in all 50 states, you have to report suspected child abuse. You're not reporting child abuse, you're reporting suspected child abuse. You go into the magistrate's office with 4, 5, 10 people, 10 friends, whoever it is. Yes, this father, I've known him for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. He's always had a great relationship, teaching him soccer, teaching him this, teaching him that. I just want to say, I think this is suspected child abuse. He is not seeing his kids. He does not have fair time with his kids. I would like a copy of that report. When can I get it? Do not let that magistrate, sheriff's officer, or whatever say, well, I don't know, I've got to talk. No, don't talk to anybody. You have parents that are here. I'm making a report. The FBI has said you have got to make this report because they're not going to do anything. The last action I have, if you don't make a report, is your Second Amendment. Okay, I hope that's clear, because I've already spoke to the FBI. You do not do this in vengeance. You do not use your Second Amendment in vengeance, but you damn well can use it for protecting your kids.
And
And if
people
these
have.
people are not protecting your kids and are continuing the child abuse, they are the traffickers. They are the abusers. And you need to let them listen to this podcast. You bring this part of the podcast in there. Listen. Suspected child abuse is required in all 50 states. You make a fucking report against the judge, against the other attorneys, against your ex, against everybody who's involved in this. And if they don't do that, then you tell them, the FBI, Richard Sutherland, the duty agents out of West Palm Beach, the duty agent, the answering service out of Miami in the FBI, Christopher Wray from the FBI, the answering service and the dude and the people over at Charlotte FBI, and the people over in Denver FBI, and Amy Howard out of Loveland, Colorado FBI, all have said, if your children are in danger, you can use your Second Amendment right. Because they don't want to come out and say that, but they will sure as hell say, we don't care about children's rights. We don't care about the Constitution. We will not protect any of them. And that's the last step that you have. You have got to protect your kids now. They're being abused now. They're being, if your kids were being raped now by a judge and nobody else is going to do it, then you have to take that matter in your own hands. And if it takes the Second Amendment to make that happen, then you have to do it and protect your kids. And you have to go through all the steps. Now, I'm going to say this as a caveat. If you have been given the silver bullet, in your case, psychological abuse, in many men's case, sexual abuse, in many men's case, physical abuse, if that has been there, you better have gotten vindicated. You better have gotten vindicated, and then only at that time do you go back and say, this was thrown at me, so they can continue the psychological abuse to say, you are dangerous, you should be feared, you should be whatever. But once that's cleared up, you have every right to press charges against them. You have every right to write up a report of suspected child abuse. And if that judge, if that sheriff, if those deputies, if those police departments, if those Division of Child Services people do not write a report, show them this. This is what the FBI has said. Never pick up a firearm in vengeance, but you should damn well pick up a firearm if your child is being abused and no one else is doing it and no one else is helping. Period. Okay. And so I know you're like, well, what are you going to do? Your kids are being abused. My children, 23, 25, and 27, no contact. And that's from over 9 years ago. Psychological child abuse does not, go away when they hit 18. You have to, and the sooner you get to them, the sooner you get, you go to the DSS and have them do a report, have them do a psychological on you and on your spouse and on your kids and see what's going on. They use Dr. Childress's diagnostic checklist to see if, this is child abuse, or they use Bill Burnett's and Amy Baker's checklist. I don't give a shit who you're using, but you need to have a specialist and you need to do it on video or audio. Okay. So not just one person. Like if somebody's in the DCS and does not know psychological abuse and they're asking questions and they don't know how to fill out the simple checklist, it's not their job, and they'll most likely cover for that judge. They'll most likely cover for those people, for the lawyers and other people. You have to get a specialist who understands this, not one who's like, oh, everything is, psychological abuse. No, there's 3 abuses, and whichever one it happens to be, that's the one you go after. So
sorry, go ahead. I don't want to interrupt.
No, that I'm kind of at a stopping point. Go ahead.
Okay, so what I have seen is the opposition's client would go to the CPS counselor that they had been seeing off and on for several years, off and on, or barely at all, we'll say. And they did their psychological eval, which was all rainbows and lollipops. And I don't even think it was given to my attorneys. I never got to see it when I went pro se. But the thing is, there's so much collusion that any psychological eval, like the one I did, was fantastic. I called up an independent contractor. I did not use, I tried to use my doctor, but they called him a quack. So I paid $400. I went through, my insurance and found this great guy. He even showed up to testify and shot them all down. He was awesome, but they continued the charade. Even when I conducted my own trial, as a judge was walking off the stand, I yelled at him, "Your Honor, my children are being neglected." He just kept going because, he probably had to get a stiff drink of alcohol or whatever. But then the bailiff,
go ahead.
The bailiff came up and yelled at me. He goes, "Miss, don't you ever do that again." And I felt sorry for him because he had to be 70. What the hell?
And I will say there's something to be said when you're in court, uh, before anything starts, if you can stop anything and just raise your hand, Your Honor, may I speak for a second? And say, yeah, okay, thank you. At this point, before this continues and goes in, I would like to report suspected child abuse on my children
Mm,
from you, from the lawyers, from whatever. And if the judge just sat there, don't accuse that judge, but I would like to make this report on the opposing counsel, on their whole legal firm, and on my ex. I would like to make this on record. I'd like to write a report, and a specialist needs to examine my children to see how to see about the suspected child abuse, period.
mhm.
Okay. And then, let's continue the court case, knowing full well that I've accused them of psychological child abuse.
Well, that's interesting.
Do it in court. Don't let them stop you, and go to the bailiff, the deputy, say, I would like that. I want a copy of the report number, and I want a copy of this report as soon as possible. I
Mm,
would like my children taken into foster care if they have to spend one more minute with them.
mhm.
I need them separated immediately from the damage and the abuse.
And
And
of course,
you have to play hardball, because these people will destroy your children. I mean, I would love to talk about um one of my daughters, and I might as well, because she's 23, she's an
mhm.
adult, graduated valedictorian in social work and therapy from, I want to say, NC State. I don't know. She went to college without me knowing it. She graduated without me knowing it. So I literally saw a little bit of what she's doing, and she wants to work for childhood trauma
Huh.
and issues. Okay. She explained that she went to the hospital a few times her first year of college, because she was dealing with so much anxiety
Oh, no.
from the trauma she had. And she's caught, said, oh, well, it must be me. I caused the trauma. I wasn't even around. I wasn't allowed to see her. I wasn't allowed to talk to her.
Mhm,
But yet it's my fault that the trauma happened. I mean, she blocked me from everything. I
mhm,
don't want to get too much into it. Never accused of anything. But yet she will not look at her own trauma. She will not understand that, gee, if she has anxiety and depression and had some issues, well, let me think. What is that coming from? Do you think it could be coming from cutting out a parent, being rude to that parent, not having any emotional grief from that parent? Why don't you look at where this is coming from? My middle daughter, same thing. She has anxiety, she has depression. My oldest daughter is,
mm,
I don't even want to get into it, but they're having all these issues where they won't even look, oh, maybe my dad could be right, and I'm having all these problems, which is the full list, and pieces of the list that you get when you've been psychologically abused and traumatized.
mhm,
But they won't even look at that. Oh, this is just natural trauma, natural abuse. And I'm like, oh my God. And she's
mm,
going in to basically say, oh, this is a great thing you cut out a parent. That's what they're churning out. And I spoke to the counselors that at the schools in NC State, and they were like, oh, and they didn't report the child abuse. They didn't do anything. They're these, how do you feel counselors? Okay. So, well, how do you feel? What do you think we can make this better? How can we do that? No, you're having issues. What do you think is causing those issues? Well, tell us about your life. Well, I completely deleted a parent. I'm mad as hell and full of rage about a parent. I don't speak to him, don't respond to him, don't tell him my phone number, don't do anything on this parent. When did this happen? Oh, when my mom and dad separated.
mhm.
Oh, did you speak to him about this? No. What are you talking about? Gee, Uh, you haven't heard both sides. You haven't even looked at both sides
Right.
because you already think you know everything. Stop it. Stop it. If
Mhm.
I can speak to my daughter directly, stop it. You're in psychology. You need to know about this stuff. It's not just sexual, physical abuse. It is psychological abuse that creates a host of issues. It creates a anxiety, depression, drug use, other,
Promiscuity, low self
splitting,
yeah,
low self-esteem, borderline personality disorder, narcissistic personality disorder. This causes it. Stop it.
mhm.
Sit back and say, okay, I'm a therapist. Here's Dr. Childress's diagnostic checklist. I'm going to give this to a friend who I know is a good therapist, and they're going to go over this with me, and they're going to use me as a patient. Let me see if I fit into this. But they can't, because they have such a bad loyalty conflict that they feel, oh, if I figure this out and really figure out, oh, dad or mom is correct, then I just had this loyalty conflict with my other parent, and I can't do that because they're all great and this other parent's all bad. So I mean, that's such a situation that we're all in. And even mine, who went to school for psychology and social therapy and all this other stuff, can't realize that, let me do this test. And I want to add one more thing. And you know what? I may be the one that's crazy. That's fine. I don't mind. Ken, this happened. I took this. It really wasn't this. And I really think you're kind of crazy. So I'm going to temperament talking to you maybe once every 3-5 years. Okay, that's fine. But at least look at that and acknowledge, okay, this is possibly the reason I'm having all these issues, instead of just blocking everything out and thinking you're totally perfect. Okay, you're going to say something. I saw it on the tip of your tongue.
Okay, these colleges, maybe parents should be making phone calls to these colleges and asking to speak to the dean of psychology or whatever and say, "What is your curriculum? Are you training these people about child psychological abuse?" Because it seems that what they crank out are psychologists that are trained in sexual and physical abuse on how to handle that. Because I was dealing with a dingbat that was only trained in sexual abuse, and she also was alienating me from my children because it was supposed to be called family counseling, but I was never aware of when the meetings were. So she totally did a lot of damage to this case.
Oh, totally, totally. See, here's one of the issues that you run into. And I'm going to say this, go back to my book, Child Abusers Wear Black Robes. Just because I'm saying just because I'm saying go into these offices, video recording, doesn't mean you stop that when you go and speak to the chairs of whatever college it is. Doesn't mean it changes when you speak to the counselor department and the head of the counselor department at any of these colleges. Because I can tell you right now, Dr. Kurt Michaels, who's this clinical psychologist at Appalachian State, is a child abuser. He abused my kids. He diagnosed them wrong. Even when I made points, said, listen, you're wrong on this. This is what this is. He goes, oh, this is normal child separation. No, child separation doesn't happen for 9 years. What are you, stupid?
Oh,
On top of which, the head director of Appalachian State Psychology, Rosemary Webb, is also a child abuser, because both these people, it is mandatory in all 50 states, especially in North Carolina, that if you suspect child abuse and you have a parent saying, hey, this is psychological child abuse, and you do nothing,
mhm.
then you become part of that child abuser and child trafficking. You have to report that. And they should have reported it to Tom Hughes, who's the head of child abuse in Watauga County. He is the most disgusting chair of the DSS, Division of Child Services or Social Services.
Mhm.
They head investigations, and he said psychological child abuse, that's not child abuse. We don't look into that. It's in there. It's in, we don't believe in any of that. Emotional child abuse. No, we don't know. Screw that. We don't do any of that. It's in North Carolina's charter that they have to look at sexual, physical, psychological, or emotional. And if you find something is creating an emotional distress, you look at them. You actually go look at them to see if they're in emotional distress. The whole hierarchy is full of child abusers that are literally intentionally abusing kids, saying we don't believe in psychological abuse.
And
That's why it comes back down to your Second Amendment right, and they need to watch this video. They need to get that sentence there. They need to get that segment and be like, listen, you need to watch Kenneth Gottfried. You need to watch this thing, because what he's saying is that I need to protect my children. Yes, you do. I need to protect my children of psychological child abuse. Yes, you do. And I need to go to you. And if you don't do anything, then because you're the stopping point, you're the person that's supposed to investigate this. I need to use my Second Amendment right because my children are being abused. Tough. I don't give a shit if you don't know about it. Then you're going to have to say, let's get a professional who knows about this. Bill Burnett, Dr. Childress, Amy Baker, and a host of other people that we've seen across the board. Because I'm so sick of these people saying, well, we don't know about this, so we're not going to do it. I don't give a shit if you don't know about this. Figure it out. Figure out how to deal with this, because there's too many parents killing themselves. There's too many parents and children being abused. I'm sorry. I'm a little
well,
emotional.
well, Child Protective Services, going back to emotional abuse indications, they don't even know what that is. They don't even know what that entails. The dingbat I was dealing with, she was a screaming banshee I told you about, who screamed at me for an hour and a half in my living room and then came back 2 days later to haunt me and scream again for almost 2 hours. Uh, they talk about talk about adult psychological abuse, but while wearing pleather cowboy boots. But, you know, uh,
Oh, hold on. I may like that, but that's a total thing off topic.
okay.
About the leather cowboy boots. Okay, go
No,
ahead.
well, that's pleather. I mean, this was vinyl cowboy boots that,
Okay, so
uh,
go ahead.
okay, so CPS, okay, I think CPS should be abolished across the board anyway, get rid of them.
Oh no, they should be arrested and going and they should be arrested for child abuse, destroying families, and they should have to go through the judicial system for child abuse for not doing their job. And then, bottom line, the bar, so and there's so much of this, and I'm not going to say the entire bar association and all the attorneys, just the ones in civil family court. Okay, all those people need to be fired, and that needs to be built up from the ground up, and it needs to be constitutionally abided, where they don't just throw away your due process, where they don't just throw away your constitutional rights. That's it drove me insane that when you go to the Judicial Standards Commission, and they're looking at, you were subpoenaed on a Thursday to appear in court less than 24 hours later, and you ask for a continuance, and we don't find anything wrong with that. Okay, this Judicial Commission needs to be arrested and thrown in jail without due process, without any constitutional rights, because they're saying that you do not have your constitutional rights. There's nothing that a judge does is wrong. They need to be thrown in jail immediately, and then ask 60 days later, 90 days later, oh, do you think constitutional rights matter at this point? I mean, I don't understand why and how that they can survive without a parent, without some people making complaints that aren't calling them out on a daily basis as child abusers, child traffickers and anti-constitution. I don't get it. But I'm telling you right now, it is across the board how corrupt and diabolical the divisions of the Justice Department is. I honestly, it just blows me away.
I think when parents enter this kangaroo court, known as family court,
Yeah.
of course, that should be abolished too and taken down to the civil court. That's well, not probably I would like to see that happen within my lifetime. Anyway, they think justice will be done. I mean, everybody's naive going in there.
Yep.
And they don't realize and they don't see how insidious this child psychological abuse is. "Oh, Johnny's having anxiety all of a sudden. What's
He's
happening?"
cutting. He's
Yeah,
cutting.
or they're
He's
lying about
depressed.
cutting. You know, for lies are being told, and these judges, it people are saying, "Well, they need to be educated on personality disorders," and yeah, sure. They don't need to be educated when their personality disorders. They need psychological evals. They need to be drug tested, and, oh, there was something else, but, you know, that's the thing is these parents go in there blindly and or hauled in there because some people say, "Oh, just walk away from family court." Well, not when you're being sucked into it and you have to defend
Exactly,
yourself.
exactly. Because everybody, most people don't know. They
Mm-mm.
have no clue. They're walking in with these rose-colored glasses. Justice will be done. My kid's best interest of the child. No, it is the worst interest of your child. They intentionally abuse your kid. They intentionally screw up your kid. They force abandonment. This is what it is. They order forced abandonment. Was your kid abandoned? Absolutely, because they forced it on you. You can't see your kid because of this. Oh, any reason they could find. Oh, because you're a drunk. I don't drink. Well, we don't care. We want to figure it out. So it takes them. So these temporary orders that are 2 weeks, 30 days wind up being years from continuances because the opposing counsel knows they can do that. And because these judges, they want to make it super fair that they're going to say, oh, we're going to come up, not right now. We're not going to make a decision now. We're going to make it over the weekend. So you wind up that you lost all your visitation with your kids, or you lost everything because he needed to think about it over the weekend so he could make the biggest grift from either the attorneys, the lawyers, the income from Title 4D. That's their goal. Their goal is not best interest of the family. None of that. At the only time, I don't know. I don't want to get too much into it because I'll go off. But you need to protect, everybody needs to protect their kids. If they believe their kids are psychologically abused, you need to demand that reports are made, that judges are accused, that that you actually have stuff on file. You need to go to the sheriff's department and deputies. I need to file this. When the deputy says, well, the sheriff has to take care of it, and the sheriff won't do anything, you need to show them this video. This is child abuse. You are blocking a report of child abuse, or at least suspected child abuse, and needs to go in there in all 50 states. If they don't do that, you are left to be walking tall. Okay, I don't know if you all saw this when the corrupt sheriff's departments, the corrupt police departments are all trying to oppress this one guy. It's unfair. And the one guy with the big stick says, "I'm coming back." That's what needs to happen more often than not. You fucking write that report. My kids are abused. Now, I'm going to say this, which leads into our next question. Go ahead. Are you a therapist? Yeah, go ahead. Ask me the question. We talked about this a little bit.
Um, I'm receiving a boatload of crisis calls.
And I am too, because I have child abusive judges. I'm located in Florida. Fathers are like, what do I do? What do I do? My kids are being destroyed. I haven't seen them in a year, 3 years, whatever. What do I do? This is what you do. And I'm going to repeat myself. You go in to the magistrate's office or the sheriff's office with 5 of your friends. Go back and listen to this. Okay. Record everything. And this is really going to hurt some people out there. And I'm going to ask this to Marianne first. Hi, Marianne. How are you? Can you
Okay.
do me a favor? That windscreen that you're talking in, can you lower that just a little bit so I can see your face?
Oh, no.
If you can, lower it, not all the way, not all the way. No, just a little bit. There you go. You are pretty, and I want to see your face.
Okay.
Okay, so if you want to cover it up, that's fine, but I think you're beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, so here's the issue that I'm going to say from the calls we get. Marianne, I want to ask you a direct question. Out of all your calls that you get, how many people are crazy? Honestly. Okay, because you get therapists call, they want to counsel, they want you to counsel them, they want you. How many people do you speak to that you say, okay, maybe these people are a little bit off? Because I can tell you my percentage.
I would
I want
say
to hear yours.
none of them are off because it's like this is the same story, different scenario, different narrative, but it's the same story. The other side calls the other side mentally ill, or they're doing criminal complaints of sexual abuse on, usually the father, or y- you know, or there is abuse and the judge is not looking at evidence, which is happening horribly in North Carolina. And these people are not crazy. They just don't understand why this is happening, how to make it stop. And it's like, well, okay, I'm not a lawyer. I am not a trained psychologist. Uh, you know, and what's sad is, these people are so distraught. They will start repeating their story over again because they're so distraught and
Totally.
traumatized. And it's not their fault because as soon as you walk into a family courtroom, you are already disabled.
Yeah, no, totally, totally. Okay, so my apologies for that. Um, I have found out of the calls that I get, I deal with 1 out of 5 people who are beyond just the normal PTSD. And so
Mhm.
it 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 it's tough because I understand these people who are going through very traumatic issues with their kids, with everything. And it's very difficult for me to be like, okay, I can't juggle everything.
Mhm.
Okay. I can't juggle um a person talking to me for literally 2 hours.
I've
Hey, I'm
done
gonna
one for
tell
5. I've got you beat. 5 hours.
wow, you have patience of a god.
It was fascinating. I mean, it was just so fascinating, and, anyway, go ahead.
So anyhow, um, the fact is we hear these stories, and they're basically cookie cutter. Almost all of us. I go to court, rose-colored glasses. I go to court. I'm accused of something. I go to court. And by 2 months, 4 months, 6 months, I can't see my kids. 8 months, I can't see my kids. 12 months. I just got accused of the silver bullet. I just got accused I'm an alcoholic. I just got accused I'm bipolar. I just got accused. And so you're always on your heels. And we try and help out everybody. I've got 2 fathers from um from Florida right now who are like, Kenny, what do we do? What do we do? I was like, you need to get 1 to 3 people from your family, 1 to 3 other fathers, and you need to make an appointment with the magistrate. Hey, we need to come in there, and you need to come in there with a video, and I will do this with you. You don't have to be somebody who's related to this. You can just listen to a parent and be like, oh, this sounds like it's emotional child abuse. It's definitely, if that child has been taken away from a parent for 6 months, a year, it is traumatic on that child. That child is looking at, I've been abandoned.
Mhm. Mhm. Well,
So, so in any case, I'm going to the magistrate with this father, or this parent
Mhm.
and saying, this is suspected child abuse. You need to go after it. You need to write a report. If you don't write a report, I will file child abuse charges on you.
Mhm.
And you will go to you can go to the sheriff's department and you record that. And you know what? Enough, like these auditors on YouTube, we need to have auditors for this corrupt system that they send you this one department and deny it. So you go to the sheriff's department and they deny it. Well, no wonder they brought out the Second Amendment. You don't have a choice. The sheriff's department or deputies, they're not supposed to investigate psychological child abuse. They're not educated enough to know anything about it. Take the report, send it to DSS. DSS is supposed to investigate it. They don't know about it. They need to get a specialist. If they try and get somebody from within who doesn't know about it, then they need to be put in jail immediately and taken and fired. It's not their job.
Mhm.
Sorry. I will get really aggressive with this because they are one of the prime concerns and one of the prime things that children are being abused. They are the first and last means of defense because they will sit there and be like, oh, we don't see anything. We don't know. Okay.
They, I just have no faith in any of these people. Um,
No, I
Parents need
get
to
you.
know, you know, I tell parents, okay, if you're going to take your kid to a psychologist, you better ask that psychologist, do they know what child psychological abuse is? I don't care if they say, well, I have a PhD in child sexual abuse. That ain't going to help you if you
No.
have this problem. And um,
As a matter of fact, I'm going to interject. If they have a PhD in sexual abuse, odds are they've been sexually abused. Odds are the only thing they can see is sexual abuse.
right, right. I mean, to go back to a counseling session with one of my kids, he told a blatant bald-faced lie. And I said to the kid, you know, this kid was probably 12, we'll say. I said, "Why are you lying?" And, well, she didn't like that, so that went into the court report that I stated, and so my lawyer said, "Well, they wanted you to say to Johnny, 'Johnny, what can I do to help you?'" So now we're creating narcissists and other personality disorders that someone
Absolutely.
can continue a lie that I'm not going to tolerate. And
Well,
that and
go ahead. And I will tell you though, one of the things that they get you on with psychological child abuse in this way is shared persecutory delusion. When that child sees you, well, how do they feel? Uncomfortable, anxious, depressed. Why? Is because these are symptoms of psychological child abuse. You're hating that parent. You're uncomfortable with that parent. And rather than them say, okay, where are these from? Where is this coming from? Because this is not a normal thing. You know, um, rather than investigate that, they don't. They want to come in and be the feelings police.
yeah.
How are you feeling? Well, I'm anxious. Well, what about this parent? Well, I fear them and I'm uncomfortable with them. Yeah, that's because this leads right back to it. Oh, did they sexually abuse you? No. They physically abuse you? No. Did they emotional abuse you? Yeah, I think so. I'm emotionally abused because I'm uncomfortable around them. So they don't understand. So, anyhow,
Well, and then you get them on the stand. Well, for instance, when I had to be cleared of this emotional abuse indication because, I can't work as a nurse if you are under an indication of any kind. Okay.
yeah.
So the psychologist, we got her on the phone and suddenly she doesn't have her notes in front of her. I mean,
Oh, Jesus.
I bought the transcript and it was gold. I mean, it was very important to have this transcript, even though I took it to federal court and the judge did not look at any evidence and ruled everything irrelevant. So
Yeah.
he's not doing his job. But anyway, she just said, I don't have the notes in front of me, but no, I don't see anything. She just kind of swept things under the rug and kind of did me a favor. Uh,
I know. I'm sorry. I mean, I hate hearing these stories, but they're just so prevalent.
yes.
And it's every case. The judge in my case, uh, called my attorney to the stand, gave me an hour. I never heard that ever. He called my old attorney to the stand in an hour, hour and a half, colluded with Tamara Divinary, in Boone, North Carolina, to literally abuse my kids and to get my attorney to testify against me. And I'm sitting there. I'm literally dumbfounded in my chair, and my mouth is held open like I've never seen this. But it happens all the time. It happens all the time with these corrupt judges and corrupt situations. And when you bring them to judicial commissions, again, oh, that's okay. He can call whoever he wants to call.
Well, I noticed that things are starting. I hear these parents, like even before you go in the courtroom, you get these attorneys talking. So the attorneys are saying, well, let's go take them to this psychologist. No, 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 no. These parents have to wise up and say, wait a minute, I have to interview this psychologist. I'm going to call Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield, and I'm going to start making phone calls on, picking out a psychologist, not one you recommend, not one
Absolutely,
you
absolutely,
recommend.
yeah, and that is so prevalent because what you will have is they say, "Oh, we're going to use this accountant, this psychologist, this thing for your case." No, I'm going to tell you right off, most of these people have been bought and paid for. They
Yes.
will come up and doesn't matter what you are, how honest you are, how nice you are a criminal if you go to them because they already have been paid to testify against you.
In fact, in the first trial, I think it was the first or second, but they came up with this lie that my attorney threatened the psychologist to not testify, which was not seriously. A lot of parents are actually even wising up and saying, "I'm not going in there, and I'm not going to acknowledge this game." And, you know, they're not playing the game.
Exactly. And they shouldn't. They shouldn't. I'm going to lower my thing because I'm kind of falling off here. There we go. And so, yeah, and they shouldn't play this game because the game is fixed from the moment before
Mhm.
you even walk in.
Oh, yes, yes.
Okay, so I think I covered so much of this. There's you have to, if you're going in, show them this video. Tell them that if they do not write a report, your only avenue to protect your kids is the Second Amendment. If you do not write a report, your job is to write a report. And oh, I want to get back to one thing. The people that I talk to that are kind of off, probably 1 in 5. I said this already. So even if you go in and you write this report and they do psychologicals on you, you get a psychological and you are found to be a little off, you have to accept that. You have to be able to say, okay, let's do some introspection and let's see where I may need help.
Mhm,
You can't always go and just shooting up and do whatever. You have to look at this whole thing.
mhm,
That's why you need to make these steps all along the way. Make get people around you to help testify. If you can't find anybody to help testify, okay, let's take a step back. If I don't have any friends by now and I haven't hung out with people in soccer or going to PTA or doing whatever, then maybe I should take a step back. But you need to have at least 3 people to go in with you.
mhm, mhm.
And you need to, because this is so detrimental to your kids. I mean, I wish to God I could just speak to them, ask them a couple questions, see how they're doing. I mean, there's no reason that my second child, should have been anxious and throwing up and been in the hospital. No reason.
Mhm.
If she's anxious because of a test or she's anxious, sure, we all go through that. But to go to the hospital? Come on, I know what this is.
Mhm.
Please, talk to, and I can't say this because I'm still in a situation. They're gonna look at me and be like, there he is again. Dad's crazy. No, dad's not. Oh no, sorry. I may be a little crazy.
I was gonna ask you, I mean, because I don't think you are crazy. You've written 3 books. I mean, I'm trying to finish my 3rd one, and I can't because I'm getting all these crisis calls, and then I'm running podcasts here and there, and I'm exhausted. So
Absolutely. And I'll be honest with you. I told you this before. We need to work on a pamphlet together.
mhm.
We need to do something when a parent calls. What do I do? We made this list. Follow this list. Follow this, follow. This is our steps to make this apparent, and so, if rather than taking these crisis calls 2 a day, 4 a day, sometimes none for a couple weeks, but then one hits you, you could be doing so, okay, I'm going to ask you this. You pick up the phone. What weird situation are you in? Eating with your family, hanging out with your husband, shopping. Hi, and they go right into it.
Yes. Yes.
Ah, it's beautiful. Go right into it. I was eating with friends. I'm on a fishing trip up in Flagler Beach, and I get a call when I'm eating dinner with
It
everybody.
was from
Hi,
me.
what?
I remember I called you and you were eating with friends.
And that's why I am big, because I constantly eat, and that's why if you interrupt me, it's nothing else. I'm probably eating, but and so we go, But this guy talked to me for like 30 minutes. I finally go back and everyone's like, what was it? And I'm like, yeah, it was work. Because what are you going to say? This guy was in a crisis. He didn't know what to do. He's asking my opinion. He got my name and number from my website. And, I mean, dear God, we have to look at this as this whole system is crazy. We have almost 600 judges accused of child abuse,
Mhm.
and no one wants to write a report. Let that sink in. We have 600 people accused of child trafficking, and no one wants to write a report, and they all want to cover for the child abusers. This is
Well,
just the itty bitty top of the thing. These are
well
the serious cases.
mhm.
This is not all the ones that are growing in there because they're afraid if they were to write something or accuse someone of accuse a judge of child abuse, then guess what? There is retaliation. They will come after you. They will make you rue the day that you ever accuse them of child abuse. So, yeah,
Well,
it's a nasty business.
okay, so I was court watching, and it was like I
Where?
got sucked into this Miami-Dade, Florida. And, this case was, the way this judge treated a pro se litigant was
Hold on,
beyond.
hold on one sec. Okay. Do you live in Florida?
No, thank God. I'm never going back there either. Sorry.
Okay, I was gonna ask you, let's do lunch. Okay.
Aw.
This way
I
you
would've
can
gone.
interrupt
I'm
me in the
starving.
middle of lunch because I'm with you.
Yeah.
But anyhow,
And so,
this pro se litigant.
pro se litigant, I had to write up the judge. I had to write up the opposing attorney based on their behaviors of them treating this pro se litigant who's doing pretty good. Of, just I just can't believe what they were doing. They were gaslighting her like crazy.
Yeah.
Anyway, there was a chat box, and I saw, someone make a comment, like to the opposing attorney, "Don't laugh. This isn't funny." So, I just thought, well, this is a chat for just anybody. I didn't think anything of it. So I wrote, okay, so the father gets custody of the kids and telling the other parent they can't see the kids, but yet wants child support. So guess what? He's the abuser. And the judge looked at that. And he says, Marianne Petrie, I'm going to hold you in contempt if you continue to do this or something to that effect. And I was going to type in, not my first rodeo, but I didn't. I
But
didn't. But, I mean, Oh, and then in the other one, I watched another one, this guy's getting screwed over. Um, Same judge, but anyway, I typed in that he does not know what child psychological abuse is. He does not know what child psychological, and, he looked at it, and I thought, "Is he gonna say something to me again?" And he didn't.
They hide behind their own ignorance. They know what most of them know what child psychological abuse is. They just know that is not an area they need to tread because they'll get stuck in it. And they'll get stuck in it, and then people have to look at them, and then they'll investigate the child psychological abuse, and they'll wind up getting shown up as a child abuser.
Well, then if that's the case, then just shut down family court and let's just go into civil court.
I wish somebody wrote a book about that.
Maybe that's your next one.
No, isn't that what's your book?
Well, no, I'm exposing my other case, what happened in the federal court. It won't be boring. It's actually
No, no,
kind
no,
of
no. Your book,
entertaining.
yeah, Dismantling Family Court. Yeah, no. So I wish somebody wrote a book about that. That's why it was a slide sarcastic remark. And right now, there's probably 100 books about the corruption in family court. Your books, my books, and be you just. I've gone over this before. Title 4D is only $70 billion.
Mhm,
Billion with a B. And I say only because that's only just a fraction of this grift, of this corruption. Because now you talk about your lawyers, your therapist, your forensic therapists, your specialist, your whatever, and you bring them in.
mhm,
That's like $250 million
mhm.
between all the other people. And your lawyers, lawyer fees, all that shit in this big pile. But you know who the biggest proponents of this are to keep this system going? Drugs, big pharma. Do you know that there was $382 billion spent on just depression medications last year?
Mm-mm.
This is just depression, not anxiety, not your, that was just your depression medications.
Mhm.
So now you're talking 70 billion, 250 billion, and another 350 billion just from family court.
Oh, yes. Right.
And as you know, these depressive medications are lifelong for the most part.
Oh,
Oh,
yes.
but if you do get off of them, many of them will end your life almost immediately because of your suicidal ideation.
Mm.
And they know this. It is I
Well, I think I told you that, I was on, this all started with this judge asking me what medication I was on, and I really didn't think anything of it, vitamin C and a crumb, 0.25 of Ativan to help me sleep at night after my shift as a nurse, because we're seeing trauma that, in an ER that a lot of people aren't used to seeing. Anyway, they ran with I was now mentally unstable. So then I should have asked him what he was on when he, died quickly of pancreatitis.
Yeah, exactly. He's on guilt. Finally the guilt from abusing all these parents and judges, or parents and children, finally caught up to him.
Well, he could have been
Yay.
even abusing other judges too. I bet they all abuse each other. You don't take this case. I
Ooh,
don't know.
I don't see them breaking. There is a black robe brotherhood
Yeah.
that they protect all their brethren. Okay, because you got to realize all these fucking cocksucking judges, as you can see, my love for them is quite high. They all protect each other. That's why when you go to these other courts, you're not going to get a fair deal. When you go to the judicial standards commissions in all 50 states, they're all made up of these fucking judges, these corrupt judges who really don't care about government who don't care about the canons. They write these canons, oh, because we have these canons, but none of them give a shit about the laws. They're all about laws to put you in your place.
Mhm.
Okay.
Well,
If they lock you up for 30 days, 60 days, 6 months, well, you broke the law. But if they break the law,
yeah, it's
no
all right.
biggie. And they're going to be seen by other judges who are, they broke the law. So they're going to be like, oh, we're going to protect judges. Oh, crazy. Okay.
Well, okay, I
I
mean,
don't
I
want to
did
get
have
too
one
much
good
into this.
judge. I did have one good judge, honest to God, seriously, because when the ex was not, um when he was ordered for me to see my kids
Mm-hmm.
on certain hours, you drive to the house, the lights are on, and no one's home. So, my attorney filed an emergency petition because, the behavior was just anyway, this judge, I went in there, never seen him before, but he was hot. So I really couldn't look at him. I just looked away, and, he was yelling. He says, "There will be visitation. These are the orders, and it will be on these hours." Like, he's really yelling, and I was, like, really happy. In fact, I kept his order in my purse for, like, a
Wow.
year
Wow.
on top of him being good looking. But, I mean, that was someone who really did something, and I think he knew the BS. Okay, so what happens is you go to the state police when you can't get your kids, and they call the DA on call who says, "Well, there's nothing we can do because, this is a family court case. There's nothing we can do." And, my attorney said, "Well, we can't do anything because your ex has never been a felon." And I'm like, "Okay,
But
so who are letting this run the
most
court?"
people, sorry, God.
No, oh, I was just gonna say we're just letting these personality disorders run the courtroom.
Absolutely. And you have to realize that in most cases, and anybody who is interfering with your child custody, with that parent not bringing you the kids for their time, that is a felony. And that needs to be reported to the sheriff's department deputies. Hi, I don't have my kids at this time. I need to report my ex and his attorney for felonies.
Oh, see, we need to
And
know this. Yes.
yes, so that's, and when the sheriff's department says, oh, this is family court, exactly, I agree with you. This is a court order that I am supposed to see my kids. They are not abiding by this. I need to file a report, and I need to pick up that report tomorrow so I can show it to the judge, because you know this, and record it. Record it. Record the deputy. I'm just letting you know that I am file. I do have you on file, do have you recorded, and if you do not write the report, I will file charges against you.
Mhm.
Okay, and if they don't, and if you have to continue to go to the sheriff's department and they won't write the report, you bring in 2, 4, 6 of your friends, your family, and you just keep doing it until they freaking listen, because nothing will get done by them protecting these child abusers.
Mhm. Mhm.
Period. Sorry, I go off.
Oh, no,
So
I mean, yeah, I mean, we gotta talk about this again, on another pod because 'cause I'm gonna have you back on to continue this.
I don't know. The FBI may arrest me,
Well, I hope not.
because they're the ones saying we can't do anything about this. You have to take it up in the states. We don't protect children. We don't protect the Constitution. For all we care, it could burn. So they may come after me for repeating that from what Richard Sutherland, his supervisors, Christopher Wray, the director of the FBI. They may come after me because now I am a loudmouth. I am instigating. I'm not instigating anything. I'm instigating for them to do their fucking jobs. Period. I had this one guy, Richard Sutherland, and his supervisors out of Hickory and Charlotte FBI office. Oh, just show us one thing that maybe the judges did that was unfair. Okay. The judge called my attorney to the stand February 5th, 2016. May 19th, I got a subpoena to appear in court. May 20th, didn't have due process. In either one of those cases, you know what his response is? We don't see anything wrong with that. This is the FBI. the sheriff's office, sheriff in Charlotte, sheriff, not sheriff. This is the FBI office, the duty agents in Charlotte, the duty agents and the supervisors in Hickory. We don't see anything wrong because we don't care about children. We don't care about the Constitution. Their motto is to protect children and protect the Constitution, which is a crock of shit. That's why I have to bring Christopher Wray in here, because I've written him 2 letters and he's told me this both times. No, do your fucking jobs. So they may come after me. Oh, you're inciting. No, you have told us that you won't touch this. We have to go back to the states. The states won't protect our kids. So it is up to us. And thank God the Constitution has given us a Second Amendment right to be like, if you don't protect these kids, then I have to. Okay? If you're making orders that are direct orders for domestic violence, according to the Department of Justice, then I have to protect myself and protect my kids. If you are ordering, the judge is ordering child psychological abuse by separating a parent and the kids without your due process, that is against the law and against the Constitution. You have the right to use your Second Amendment. I'm sorry.
Or voodoo dolls.
Voodoo dolls. Now, here's the one thing. They're going to sit there, oh, well, if you harm the guy who's abusing your kids, then we're going to come after you. I asked the FBI, Richard Sutherland and his supervisors, how do we protect the parents and the children who are being abused from that? Because the moment you use your Second Amendment rights, they're going to come after you. Oh, this psychotic person, this whatever. And they're going to make you think you had it bad in family court? They're going to make it worse because they literally control the media, because the media relies on what the sheriff's department, police department give them for news. And they don't want to mess that up because it comes into advertising dollars. That's why these YouTube advocates are being so popular. They're pointing out all this corruption. Sorry, you can continue. My apologies.
No, that's all right. I mean, what I was doing is I was asking God to remove these people from my life, because I started out with a female opposing attorney from hell. I have never seen anyone talk to me like this. And being a nurse for almost 23 years, I've taken a lot of verbal abuse, especially working on the psych unit, but I've never seen anything to this nature. I would say close to demonic. And I'm going,
without a doubt,
God, get her out of my life. And he did, because he gave her cancer. And then, of course, her husband's an attorney, because what happened is how they met was, they had adultery because he was married to another attorney. And so they hooked up. And anyway, now she had cancer. So now I was stuck with him. And I thought, oh, I can handle him, except he would use these arm gestures when he's talking, like very flamboyant and dramatic. I thought, I can do that too.
Was he Italian or Jewish?
No, I don't know what the hell
I gotta tell you.
I don't know what he is. Named after one of my guitars. But anyway, but so, I started doing that. Your Honor, just doing that. And he started noticing I was doing that. And then I noticed the last time we were arguing, he kept his hands at his side. Yeah, behave and keep your hands to your side. But I could handle him a lot better, knowing that, he's a perpetual liar, because that's what my attorney told me. And they were a big problem to the family law community. So I already knew that going in.
But that is why I'm going to stop this right now. If you are in court and they start lying, that the opposing counsel starts lying, you immediately say, Your Honor, I have to stop this. May I speak for 1 second? It's very important. Normally, the judge will say, sure, okay, this case had just crossed into criminal. Okay, I would like to file charges against that attorney, his law firm, and my ex. Period. Stop it right there. I'd like to file charges against them for psychological child abuse. V995.51 in the DSM-5. shared persecutory delusion, period. That's what you should say. Okay, Your Honor, I would like to make sure I get that report tomorrow.
Mhm.
Or when can I have that report? And speak to the deputy, he's right there, and say to the the president, say to the judge, listen, I am now required, this is criminal
Mhm.
child abuse. I know this is civil court, but they made this criminal.
Mhm.
They're making up lies so I don't see my children.
Mhm.
They are
Mhm.
hurting my child, and they are causing you to do a forced abandonment on my child. So I'd rather not be said, but if you do not let me see my children, I have not been accused of anything, whatever, then I will also have to put that report on you as well.
Mhm. Mhm.
Period.
And I another thing I'd like to add to that, is when you hear anyone say even alienation, then you stop it right there. Because the president judge and I'm gonna have to go back to the transcript because I'm pretty sure that's what I saw. If I'm wrong, if I misspoke, I totally apologize. But he brought up alienation. Here's a president
Oh,
judge,
the judge did this?
the president judge, who then sold us down the river to the corrupt judge who died of pancreatitis.
Sorry. Woo, woo. Go ahead.
Yay. Okay. So, yeah, so I think as soon as you hear that, stop everything right there. Parents don't know because it's like, well, alienation, what the hell is that? Because a lot of people don't know what it is.
Nope, absolutely. And a lot of times that's the first time they're hearing it. What the hell's alienation?
Right.
And they're in court and it's already stressful enough. Understand what it is. It is parental alienation is just a term. It's not anywhere. It has to be worded a shared persecutory delusion. It
Mhm.
is psychological child abuse. It's in the DSM-5 V995.51. You have to say here, this is what this is. Okay, you have to have these files in a file in a file on your desk when you go there. This is what is going. Here are copies to the judge. Here are copies to the opposing counsel. Here are copies of what domestic violence is under emotional definitions, harming one's children, harming one's relationship with one's children. Period. Harming one's relations with his or her children. Okay, that is emotional domestic violence. Here, Your Honor, I'd like to file domestic violence charges against the opposing counsel and my ex. You know, and here, this is a letter from the APA about the separation of kids, separation of children from parents at the border. It specifically goes into, they wrote this to the president, Donald Trump, 2018, specifically goes into, okay, how harmful this is to a child. This is not even psychological abuse as in a shared persecutory delusion. This is just the separation and forced abandonment. Okay, decades of experience, years, if not lifetimes of trauma, higher 80, 8, God, what is that? 80, no, childhood, God, what is that? Uh, Adverse childhood experiences,
Right.
ACE, higher ACE scores, by not one, but by like 3 or 4. You give them all this documentation, say, this is what you're doing to my children.
Mhm.
If I do not see my children on a regular basis, I will have to file child abuse charges against everybody else. But if you're accused of a silver bullet kind of thing, you have to be exonerated because it doesn't do any good if they've accused you of something and they want to separate the kids for a while. Fine. I'll take that, but we need to do this now. If it goes past 30 days, goes past 3 weeks, I will have to file criminal charges against all of you.
But it takes close to 6 months just to get a hearing with the CPS judge.
Due process. Your Honor, I have no problem with this, but since this was only brought up today, I am not having due process. This is a criminal allegation. It's never been brought up before other than here. This is a criminal allegation and should be brought up in criminal court. And at this point, I would like to file child abuse charges for psychologically abusing my kids, for them separating me from my kids. For this time, this is investigated. And if I become exonerated, I would like them, both the attorneys and her, to be thrown in prison
Mhm.
for lying and defamation.
Mhm.
And I'm sorry, you have to be forceful. When you go in there, you can't go in as a lamb,
Oh.
unless, because you're the one who, what do they say at a poker table? Look around and see who the fish is. If you don't see a fish, you're the fish.
Mhm.
So you have to understand, when you go into court, you're not fighting for just you. You're fighting for your kids and their health.
Well, I'm glad we had this talk. I'm gonna have you back on again.
I don't have anything to say.
Oh, well, hey, how can
Marianne, I
people
love
reach you?
what?
How can people reach you if they have any questions?
Um, Go to my website, childabusivejudges.com. child abusive, ABUSIVE, judges.com. Okay. Really simple. Contact.
Okay.
Okay. If you fill out the form on the top to report your judge, beautiful. But if you just want to contact me, go to the contact page and let that come up.
Okay.
Okay. Or, you know what? I am not giving out my phone number, because
Uh,
I get inundated with people calling me up wanting help. The only ways I'm going to help you, excuse me, go on my website, gottfriedmarketing.com. Contact me there. You need banners, you need shirts, you need whatever paraphernalia that you can have to report it, to stand out and do a protest. But if you are protesting, now this is the one thing I'm mad at, you protesters, mad at you protesters. Okay? If you are going to protest, first thing you need to do is go down to the magistrate. That is the person who takes in complaints, criminal complaints, and then divvies them up to the sheriff's department, police department. Stop waving your flags and wearing your shirts and doing everything and just going, this person's an abuser, blah, 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 blah. Stop it. All of you, okay? You get your friends together, get 5, 7 of them, go down to the magistrate's office, videotape it, and then file child abuse charges against every judge, every lawyer, every law organization, and you file them, get them in writing, and say, I need copies. And you do not take no for an answer. You do not take no for an answer. You get those in writing, and you make sure that that judge is now have a record that he is accused of child abuse. And the reason I'm saying this, and this is for you scumbag Judge Hal Harrison and Judge F. Warren Hughes and Judge Eggers, Rebecca Eggers, you guys are scumbags. I get calls every few months, hi, Judge Eggers, Judge Harrison are abusing my children. What do I do?
mm,
Because what happens is, we have down in Yancey County a different sheriff. The sheriff up in Boone, North Carolina, or in Watauga County, Sheriff Len Hageman. You should be ashamed of yourself, Len. You're a child abuser. You need to go in there with the parents, and every one of you needs to file accused child abuse, psychological child abuse, against those judges. So it's on record, because I can't put it on record because Sheriff Len Hageman is a child abuser. Okay. Bar none, because I've gotten calls from Yancey County in other districts with these same judges. I saw your website. What do I do? The same judge is abusing my kids.
mm.
Oh, well, there's no reports ever written. Of course not, because the child abusers who are the sheriff and deputies, refuse to write a single report.
Mm.
You get everyone together and you make sure there's a fucking report. Then you go to the media, whatever media you have as a group, and you report that, because there's two media outlets in, Boone and Watauga County. They're Mountain Times and the High Country Press. both of the child abusers who run those refuse to write the reports and report on any of this child abuse. They are protecting the child abuse. They are intentionally protecting these child abusers because they don't want to write a report where they're going to have 30 more people comment on that report. They actually have turned all their comments off on their articles because there are too many people. Oh, well, this judge did that to my kids. This judge did this to somebody else's kids. These guys are co-conspirators to all this child abuse. That's one of the reasons we have all these YouTube auditors who are being so successful, because now it's being brought out to light. These people are fucking criminals.
Mhm. Mhm.
I'm sorry. Did I digress there?
A little bit, but that's fine. But, don't jump off. Slam the Gavel is a podcast to help the public understand what really goes on in these family courtrooms that perpetuate parental alienation. I am your host, Marianne Petrie, author of Dismantling Family Court Corruption, Why Taking the Kids Was Not Enough, and Cry Out for Justice, Poems of Truth. Please join us again here with Ken Gottfried in the future and other exciting guests. So thank you very much.
Marianne, thank you for having me here. Your podcast is a light, a shining beacon in this darkness.
Oh,
And I
thank you.
appreciate you more than you know.
Oh, thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you.